Another controller that we want to show you around a bit is the touch controller. Now this is Atlas's newest controller. It is a touch screen, so the buttons are gone. If you look at it, you'll see there is an off and on button here, but they're really touch buttons. Here's your touch screen. Over here on the right, you'll see your LEDs. Right now, the only thing that's illuminated is the power on LED, but it has similar LEDs to the Mark V graphic controller, in that you'll see an automatic operation, service due, and then a malfunction or a shutdown light. On the screen, similar compressor status, compressor temperature. These other boxes may fill with other data depending upon the type of machine this is controlling. You'll see in the bottom right hand corner a status icon. This means it's off or stopped. The message or the information goes from the bottom to the top on the controller. So now you'll see this machine shows us off status icon and a description above it says off. The menu button is located here, so I can touch this. That brings me to the menu. If I want to go back home, I touch the menu button or the home button there. So that's the basic screen. You'll see along the bottom we've got 3 dots, and what this is telling me is there's 3 pages available. So I can swipe to the left and it gives me another screen which houses commonly used icons. For instance, if I wanted to change regulation, I could touch the regulation button here and it takes me right to the regulation. Let's go back home and we'll swipe back to that same screen. Every controller has 2 pressure bands. This gives me a very easy way to change to the pressure band number 2 if I want to, or pressure band number 1. This button here is your local control or LAN control button. Makes it very easy to change between the 2 right from your screen here. The A with the document there, that's basically your language screen. So you can pick your English language there if you like. Bottom right hand corner, this is your remaining running time for that compressor, if it has a running length time. Also along the bottom you'll see the wireless icon, because this unit does have a built-in smart box. So the wireless antenna tells you the status there. We'll go back home and then swipe back to that screen, and then your ARAV, your automatic restart icon here. So quick way to get into your ARAV features. Let's go back home and back to that screen. So you can see those are just easy ways to get some of the most commonly used items on your screen. Let's go back to home. Now you'll notice there's another button we can swipe right. This takes you right to the menu. No different than touching the menu button here. We'll go back home. Alright, so let's take a look through the menu a little bit. The menu structure is going to be very similar to the Mark V that we've gone through. So we go into the menu, you can see there's a data icon. Data gives you your status, your inputs, your outputs, the counters, auxiliary equipment, which could be an internal dryer or something like that. We'll take a quick look at status. Status, I get a check mark, tells me everything okay. Now you'll notice as we get into the menu here, we have ways to go back to the previous step. Let's look at inputs for a second. Here's your compressor outlets, your oil pressure, your intercooler pressures, temperatures, things like that. So those are all your inputs. We'll go back one step here. Outputs, all your output contact conditions are shown there. Take one step back. Counters, running hours, loaded hours, etc. all here. One step back. Auxiliary equipment, and this machine has none. Let's go back and all the way back to the menu. Next thing here is we have the service. So our service shows us basically what's the next thing that's due, and here you can see we've got an I visit, which is an inspection visit, and we've got 1,845 hours remaining of the 2,000 hour interval. If I want additional information, I can see an overview of the service You can see what that the inspection visit there, I'm sorry, inspection visit here, and then the other service due there. So this is basically a service overview. This is a way to change service intervals if you like. Don't recommend doing that at this point unless you got some reason for that. We can take a step back and step back again, and there we'll go to the service functions, which allows us to do on certain compressors safety valve tests, drain tests, and things like that. Clean the screen. This is probably one of the most important things. You get 15 seconds to wipe it with a nice soft cloth so that you don't accidentally push any buttons and make things happen while the machine is running. Times out takes you back to here. Let's go back to the menu. So we've looked at data and service. We won't use week timers. That's something that can be used if you're not using a central controller, which is what we typically do use. Here's your event history, and it shows it as saved data. So you can see on this controller we've got two events. One was emergency stop, the other one was an overload for a fan motor. Let's look at the emergency stop once, and like the Mark V, you get the current status, when that happened, what the status of all your inputs and outputs were, and the counter hours at the time that event happens. So a lot of good information there on that saved data. I will go back one step, then we'll take another step back, and then back to the main menu. Next we have machine settings. So in machine settings, we have settings for alarms. We'll take a quick peek at that. You can see our controller temperature. That's an actual reading there. If you wanted to look at the temperature warning, you would see it set at 110 degrees. So just like the Mark V, we got two sections on each of these screens. The upper section shows you the actual status or the actual data, and the lower section shows you the warning or the shutdown point. So at 76 degrees, we're nowhere near our warning of 110. We'll take a step back. You can see differential pressure for air filters, oil pressures, intercooler pressures, intercooler temperatures, compressor outlets, inlets, a lot of different things. Oil injection temperatures, for instance. We're currently at 100 degrees. Our warning's at 149, and it'll shut the machine down at 158. Take a step back. So there's kind of an overview of the alarms. Now, here's your regulation. Similar to the Mark V, pressure band use 1, and here's your pressure settings for band 1 and band 2. Auxiliary equipment parameters, we only have a smart box installed on this machine. Auto restart, something that's really important, needs to be set to infinite. This one already is. If you wanted to change it, it asks for a security code, and this is a little different the way this works. 4735 is what we're looking for. And we'll say OK, and it looks like it's not activated. We're going to set it to infinite and say OK again. Am I sure? Yeah, I'm sure. And so now our automatic restart is set to infinite. Same type of restart delays that we talked about on Mark V. Compressor number 1 usually is set to 0 seconds. Additional or subsequent machines, all 3-second delays beyond that. So that covers the machine settings. We'll go back to the menu now, and we'll look at controller settings. These are going to be things like our network settings. We'll go to network. Let's look at CAN for a moment. You can see our CAN network is turned on. The CAN address of this controller is number 1. If you want to look at the Ethernet settings, this will show you what the IP address is. Same IP address they use for all their controllers. And we'll step back. User password, we typically don't set that. A customer can if he wants to. If he forgets, he can't get in there anymore to make any changes. We do have an upper level password that will work. The help, this is definable. I programmed this, call Beacon Medeas. So you can set it to whatever you like it to be, help text. You can put your technician's phone number in there if you like. Information basically tells you a little bit about the controller, the MAC address, the application software, some of those things a service technician might need. And then if it has an EQI license, a multi-compressor license installed. This particular controller does have an EQ4i license installed in it. Let's back up. And so that's all of the controller settings. We'll go back to the main menu and then home.